Hi, Ball. Namaste. Thank you again for tuning in. I'm Janapati Das, and we are going to read some more of the Krishna book at this moment. Please let me offer my respects to you for tuning in, and I'd like to take this opportunity to offer my respectful obeisances to my spiritual teacher, Jagat Guru Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, who's taught me everything that I'm speaking about today concerning Bhakti Yoga. And I'd like to also offer my respects to my spiritual grandfather, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who translated this 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam and 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, actually all the cantos compiled of the Srimad Bhagavatam into the Krishna book, which is what we're reading, the Stored Pastimes of Krishna. When he translated them, he didn't figure he would have time to, because the Srimad Bhagavatam is 12 cantos, it's very long. Didn't think he was going to have time to translate all those and purport upon them, so he actually created the Krishna book, which we're eternally grateful for, which is the pastimes of Krishna, but they compile all the philosophy of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam in them. So we are going to, before we start, I'd like to remind you, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Take the opportunity to like and watch the videos that I have there, share them, comment, everything. And so what we're going to do is we're going to chant Krishna's names. So let's do this. Swarupananda Paramahamsa Itinamane Ajashri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So, welcome again. Nice to see everyone again. We had last let off with the killing of Dantavarka, Vidurata, and Romashan. Of course, remember the story of Romashan. Balaramaji, of course, is on pilgrimage, being not able to fight in the Battle of Kurukshetra. He went on pilgrimage and he stopped at different places, and the last place he's been at was at the gathering of great sages in Naimisharanya. And in this gathering, the seated guru was Romashan, a disciple of Vyasadeva. But because of his enviousness of the Supreme Lord, he did not recognize Lord Balaram, who he wasn't, failed to offer due respect. Of course, we know the story. He was killed with the kusha grass by Lord Balaram. The sages protested, but they understood that it was, it was kind of a challenging situation because they knew who Lord Balaram was. They were everyone except Romashan was the one who offered respect to Lord Balaram. But they asked for some kind of atonement because everything kind of got screwed up. They had promised, it's like they set things into motion. And of course, Lord Balaram wants to set an example, just like Krishna does, of how people should act in rules and regulations of the Vedic system. Promised to give full life and support to the son of Romashan, Shuta Goswami, and who continued on with the discourse in the gathering of sages. But they also asked about this great demon, Balvala, who was creating a disturbance in the sacrifices of the sages and the Brahmanas, polluting them, throwing stool, and all these kind of things. So Lord Balaram promised to take care of this demon, which is what he likes to do anyway. So, Lord Balaram prepared himself to meet the demon Balvala. At the time when the demon usually attacked the sacred place, there appeared a great hailstorm. The whole sky became covered with dust, and the atmosphere became surcharged with a filthy smell. Just after this, the mischievous demon Balvala began to shower torrents of stool and urine and other impure substances on the arena of sacrifice. So it was, bodily wastes and things like that, vomit, stool, urine, pollutes the sacrifice arena when they're on the area. So that's why, because it's an area of purification, right? After this onslaught, the demon himself appeared with a great trident in his hand. He was a gigantic person, and his black body was like a huge mass of carbon. His hair, his beard, and his mustache appeared reddish like copper, and because of his great beard and mustache, his mouth appeared to be very dangerous and fierce. As soon as he saw the demon, Lord Balaram prepared to attack him. He first began to consider how he could smash the great demon to pieces. Lord Balaram called for his plow and club, and they immediately appeared before him. So, if we remember, this is sort of, if you see pictures, I'm not in this particular situation, I think, because Krishna and Balaram are in the village of Vrindavan, but usually Balaram is appearing with his plow, and which in one story, of course, remember, he dragged the city of Hastinapura. He also split the river of Jamuna for not offering due respect or whatever to Lord Balaram and the gopis. And he also, there was a lot of stories here. The Hastinapura was, of course, because they wouldn't release Krishna's son, a grandson from captivity. So he can call on his plow and club. It's eternally he has his plow and his club. The demon Balvala was flying in the sky, and at the first opportunity, Lord Balaram dragged him down with his plow and angrily smashed the demon's head with his club. By Balaram striking, the forehead of the demon became fractured. There was a profuse flow of blood from his forehead, and he began to scream loudly. In this way, The demon, who had been such a great disturbance to the pious Brahmanas, fell to the ground. His falling was like a great mountain with a red oxide peak being struck by a thunderbolt and smashed to the ground. Only one round, he is knocked out. TKO. Way to go, Lord Balaram. The inhabitants of Naimisharanya, learned sages and Brahmanas, became most pleased by seeing this, and they offered their respectful prayers to Lord Balaram. They offered their heartfelt blessings upon the Lord, and all agreed that Lord Balaram's attempt to do anything would never be a failure. The sages and Brahmanas then performed a ceremonial bathing of Lord Balaram, just as King Indra is bathed by the demigods when he is victorious over the demons. The Brahmanas and sages honored Lord Balaram by presenting him first-class new clothing and ornaments, and the lotus flower garland of victory, the reservoir of all beauty, which was never to be dried up, being in everlasting existence. After this incident, Lord Balaram took permission from the Brahmanas assembled at the Naimisharanya, and accompanied by other Brahmanas, went to the bank of the river Kashuki. So now he's continuing his pilgrimage. After taking his bath in this holy place, he proceeded towards the river Sarayu and visited the source of the river. He began to travel on the bank of the Sarayu River, and he gradually reached Prayag, where there is a confluence of three rivers, the Ganges, Jamuna, and Saraswati. So the three holy rivers come together. Very sacred waters there. So he also he regularly took his bath, worshipped the local temples of God, and as it is enjoined in the Vedic literature, offered oblations to the forefathers and sages. So you're going to see, like in the story, many times you can see Krishna and Balaram doing these sort of like rules and regulations of the Varnashram system, and as setting an example for the people in the Varnashram system of how they should live. In this day and age, we don't really follow very many rules and regulations of these systems because they're very difficult to follow in this current state of our consciousness in Kali Yuga. So therefore, Lord Krishna appeared and Lord Balaram appeared as Chaitanya and Nityananda respectively to propagate and spread the sacrifice of the age, which is Sankirtan Yajna, the hearing and chanting of Krishna's names. So it's not necessary to do all this worship of forefathers and sages. Everything can be, this is said, everything that is accounted in a great reservoir of water, everything that's in the small pond can be, I'm trying to think of the quote from the Bhagavad Gita, that actually can be successful from the great reservoir of water, which is Krishna. So all these rules and regulations, which are like ponds of water, can be satisfied and taken care of by the worshipping of Lord Krishna directly through the hearing and chanting of Krishna's names. He gradually reached the ashram of the sage Pulaha, and from there went to Gandaki on the river Gomati. After this, he took his bath in the river Vipasha, then gradually came to the bank of the Shona River. The Shona River is still running as one of the big rivers in the Bihar province. He also took his bath there and performed the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. He continued his travels and gradually came to the pilgrimage city of Gaya, where there is a celebrated Vishnu temple. According to the vice of his father Vasudeva, he offered oblations to the forefathers in this Vishnu temple. From here he traveled to the delta of the Ganges, where the sacred river Ganges mixes with the Bay of Bengal. This sacred place is called Gangashkara. I think that's how you say it. And at the end of January every year, there's still a great assembly of saintly persons and pious men, just as there is an assembly of saintly persons in Prayag every year, which is called Magh Mela Fair. After finishing his bathing and ritualistic ceremonies at Gangashkara, Lord Balaram proceeded towards the mountain known as Mahendra Parvata. At this place, he met Parashuram, the incarnation of Lord Krishna. So Parashuram is one of the plenary incarnations of Lord Krishna. Lord Vishnu came as a Kshatriya to basically destroy to kill off the Kshatriya race 21 times. And there's a whole story in the Srimad Bhagavatam about that if you want to read. And he offered him respect by bowing down before him. So here's Krishna's meeting his incarnation. It's really pretty cool. After this, he gradually turned towards the southern India and visited the bank of the rivers Godavari. After taking his bath in the river Godavari and performing the necessary ritualistic ceremonies, he gradually visited the other rivers, the Vena, Pampa, and Bhimarati. On the bank of the river Bhimarati, there is a deity called Swami Kartikeya. After visiting Kartikeya, Lord Balaram gradually proceeded to Shalipura, a pilgrimage city in the province of Maharashtra. Salipura is one of the biggest districts in Maharashtra province. He then gradually proceeded towards the Dravidesha. Southern India is divided into 5 parts called Panchadriva. Northern India is also divided into 5 parts called Panchagora. All the importance of charyas of the modern age, namely Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarka, invented themselves in the Dravida provinces. Lord Chaitanya appeared in Bengal, which is part of the 5 Gauradeshas. So these are all great, of course, Shankaracharyas. Lord Shiva incarnated into the great impersonalist teacher, who basically eliminated Buddhism from India. Lord Buddha came as, of course, Krishna came as Lord Buddha to there's a whole reason behind all these incarnations and great sages leading to Lord Chaitanya. But Lord Buddha, of course, was Krishna coming to basically eliminate the Varnashram system, which had become corrupted, and made it into this sort of Buddhism, atheist Buddhism, and fooling people to actually worship, to reinstate ahimsa, nonviolence, and some very basic Vedic principles that have been forgotten about, and basically laying down the road for future incarnations and great teachers to come along, leading to, of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The most important place of pilgrimage in southern India or Dravida is Venakatachala, commonly known as Balaji. After visiting this place, Lord Balaram proceeded towards Vishnu Kanchi, and from there he proceeded on the bank of the Kaveri. He took his bath in the river Kaveri, then he gradually reached Rangakshetra. The biggest temple in the world is in Rangakshetra, and the Vishnu deity there is celebrated as Rangantha. A similar temple of Rangantha is in Vrindavan, although it is not as big as in the temple in Rangakshetra. While going to Vishnu Kanchi, Lord Balaram also visited Shiva Kanchi. After visiting Rangakshetra, a lot of these Sanskrit words I trip up on, he gradually proceeded towards Mathura, commonly known as the Mathura of southern India. After visiting this place, he gradually proceeded towards Setubanda. Setubanda is a place where Lord Ramachandra constructed the stone bridge from India to Lanka, Ceylon. So, of course, Lord Ramachandra, another plenary incarnation of Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, is the story of the Ramayana. In the Ramayana, but it's also in the Srimad Bhagavatam of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes, which he also set great stones to float in the water from India, the mainland of India, the Bharat Parsha, to Ceylon or Lanka, which is known as Sri Lanka now. And if you look actually on satellite photos, there's a sandbar that runs from the mainland all the way to Lanka, and that's where the stones eventually sunk, and they were floating, so all the army of monkeys and army of Lord Ramachandra could cross to fight against Ravana. And then when Lord Rama was done, Ramachandra was done with them all the stones sank. So when they sank, all the sand from the beaches eventually created a sandbar there. So you can see the sandbar if you look in a satellite picture. It's there. Okay, so In this particular holy place, Lord Balaram distributed 10,000 cows to the local Brahmana priests. It is a Vedic custom that when a rich visitor goes to any place of pilgrimage, he gives in charity to the local priests gifts of horses, cows, ornaments, and garments. This system of visiting places of pilgrimage and providing the local Brahmana priests with all necessities of life has greatly deteriorated in this age of Kali. So once again, Kali Yuga, in the process of Kali Yuga, the whole Varnashram system is basically been thrown out the window. It's kind of like corrupted, and this is why Lord Buddha came, because the system of Varnashram was the Brahmana priests were not actually, they were doing sacrifice to eat meat, they were killing animals unnecessarily, and then doing all kinds of sinful activities, and it sort of became like the Brahmanas were kind of like the Pharisees of Jesus's time. You know, they were great. You know, they were following the Pharisees were following the Jewish tradition, the Hebrew tradition of Moses, but of course had become corrupted and power hungry. So this also was happening too. So this idea of giving in charity is also another thing. So people don't really go to pilgrimage. I mean, people still do pilgrimage, but it's for all corrupted reasons. The culture is no longer attracted by the places of pilgrimage, and the Brahmana priests who depended on such visitors have also deteriorated in their professional duty of helping the visitors. These Brahmana priests in the places of pilgrimage are called Panda or Pandit. This means that they were formerly very learned Brahmanas who used to guide the visitors in all details of the purpose of coming there, and thus both the visitors and priests were benefited by mutual cooperation. So you'd go to a holy place. The Brahmanas, of course, as we know from the Vedic system, the Varnashram system, the Brahmanas were the priestly spiritual class, spiritual masters of all the other castes, who would teach all the other castes the spiritual meanings of things. And so when you would go to pilgrimage, the Brahmanas used to instruct the visitors who would come, and the visitors would provide the Brahmanas who didn't work a job, with money to sustenance, right, to be able to do sacrifices and whatnot. But nowadays it has sort of become corrupted, and all kinds of bad things have happened because of that. It is clear from the description of the Srimad Bhagavatam that when Lord Balaram was visiting the different places of pilgrimage, he properly followed the Vedic system. After distributing the cows at Secha Banda, Lord Balaram proceeded towards Kritamala and Tamraparni rivers. These two rivers are celebrated as sacred, and Lord Balaram bathed in both. He then proceeded toward Malaya Hill. This Malaya Hill is very great, and it is said that it is one of the 7 peaks called Malaya Hills. The great sage Agastya used to live there, and Lord Balaram visited him and offered his respects by bowing down before him. After taking the sage's blessing, Lord Balaram, with the sage's permission, proceeded towards the Indian Ocean. At the point of the cape, there is a big temple of the goddess Durga. Where she is known as Kanya Kumari. This temple of Kanya Kumari was also visited by Lord Ramachandra, and therefore it is to be understood that the temple has been existing for millions of years. From there, Lord Balaram went on to visit the pilgrimage city known as Falguna Tirtha, which is on the shore of the Indian Ocean or the Southern Ocean. Falguna Tirtha is celebrated because Lord Vishnu in his incarnation of Ananta is lying there. From Falguna Tirtha, Lord Balaram went on to visit another pilgrimage spot known as Panchashparasha. There also he bathed according to the regulative principles and observed the ritualistic ceremonies. This site is also celebrated as a shrine of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Lord Balaram distributed 10,000 cows to the local Brahmana priests. From Cape Comorin, Lord Balaram turned towards Kerala. This country of Kerala is still existing in southern India under the name of South Kerala. Yeah, you can actually see it in the atlas. After visiting this place, he came to Kokarnirta, near Tirtha, Kokarna Tirtha, there we go, where Lord Shiva is constantly worshipped. Balaram then visited the temple of Arya Devi, which is completely surrounded by water. From that island, he went on to a place known as Shurparaka. After this, he bathed in the river known as Tapi, Payoshni, and Nirvindra, and he came to the forest known as Dandakaranya. This is the same Dandakaranya forest where Lord Ramachandra lived while he was in exile. So another part of the Ramayana, that's the story, of course, if you read that. Lord Ramachandra, it's kind of an interesting parallel with the Mahabharata, because the Pandavas had to go into exile to the forest, but Lord Ramachandra also had to go into exile because of his stepmother, who arranged to try to get her son to be the king. And when her son found out what she had done by having her husband exile Lord Ramachandra, he was overcome with grief. He was so angry with his mother because he was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. But he did, the half-brother of Lord Ramachandra stayed, and he said, I will be, a placeholder for you, and I will never sit on the throne until you return. And this is what Diwali, the festival of lights, is when Lord Ramachandra comes back from the exile of the forest, and it's a great celebration of light. So this is the forest where he lived. Lord Balaram next came to the bank of the river Narmada, the biggest river in central India. On the bank of this sacred Narmada, there is a pilgrimage spot known as Mahishmati Puri. After bathing there, according to regulative principles, Lord Balaram returned to Prabhash Tirtha, wherefrom he had begun his journey. When Lord Balaram returned to Prabhash Tirtha, he heard from the Brahmanas that most of the Kshatriyas in the battle of Kurukshetra had been killed. So at that point, the battle had happened, and millions of people had actually died. Balaram felt relieved to hear that the burden of the world had been reduced. Lord Krishna and Balaram appeared on this earth to lessen the burden of military strength created by the ambitious Kshatriya kings. This is the way of materialistic life, not being satisfied by their absolute necessities of life. People ambitiously create extra demands, and their illegal desires are checked by the laws of nature or by the laws of God, appearing as famine, war, pestilence, and similar catastrophes. So, very important point, that karma will come around and bite you. Even if you, in this life, you do something very evil, not in line with the laws of God, you will be held accountable for it at some point. Lord Balaram heard that most of the Kshatriyas had been killed. The Kurus still engaged in fighting. Therefore, he returned to the battlefield just on the day Bhimasena and Duryodhana were engaged in a personal duel. As well-wisher of both of them, Lord Balaram wanted to stop them, but they would not stop. So he had already left because he knew that he was partial to both sides. But, also he had helped Duryodhana train with the mace, and Bhimasena and Duryodhana were fighting, and of course at the point where Krishna gave an insight to Bhimasena about where to strike, where his weakness was, and on the legs, and so he broke the rules, but because it was Krishna's will, it was outside of the Kshatriya code, so Duryodhana had been killed. When Lord Balaram appeared on the scene, King Yudhisthira and his young brothers Nakula, Sahadev, Lord Krishna, and Arjuna immediately offered him their respectful obeisances, but they did not speak at all. The reason they were silent was that Lord Balaram was somewhat affectionate towards Duryodhana, and Duryodhana had learned from Balaramaji the art of fighting with the club. Thus, when the fighting was going on, King Yudhisthira and others thought that Balaram might come there to say something in favor of Duryodhana, and they therefore remained silent. Both Duryodhana and Bhimasena were very enthusiastic in fighting with clubs in the midst of large audiences. Each was very skillfully trying to strike the other, and while attempting to do so, they appeared to be dancing. But although they appeared to be dancing, it was clear that both of them were very angry. And so, this was years of animosity built up. Lord Balaram, wanting to stop the fighting, said, "My dear King Duryodhana and Bhimashena, I know that both of you are great fighters and are well known in the world as great heroes, but still I think that Bhimashena is superior to Duryodhana in bodily strength. On the other hand, Duryodhana is superior in the art of fighting with the club. Taking this into consideration, my opinion is neither of you is inferior to the other in fighting. Under the circumstances, there is very little chance of one of you being defeated by the other. Therefore, I will request you not to waste your time in fighting in this way. I wish you to stop this unnecessary fight." The good instruction given by Lord Balaram to both Bhimashena and Duryodhana was intended for the equal benefit of both of them, but they were so enwrapped in anger against each other that they could only remember their long-lasting personal enmity. And of course, in the Mahabharata, you can read about like the things that went on, the things that Duryodhana tried to do, kill the Pandavas so many times, just so many things in the Mahabharata. Great story. Each thought only of killing the other, and they did not give much importance to the instruction of Lord Balaram. Both of them then became like madmen, remembering the strong accusations and ill behavior they had exchanged with one another. Lord Balaram, being able to understand the destiny which was awaiting them, was not eager to go further in the matter. Therefore, instead of staying, he decided to return to the city of Dwarka. When he returned to Dwarka, he was received with great jubilation by relatives and friends, headed by King Ugrasena and other elderly persons. All of them came forward to welcome Lord Balaram. After this, he again went to the holy place of pilgrimage at Naimisharanya, and the sages, saintly persons, and brahmanas all received him standing. So this time, Ramachan has been killed, everyone is on the same page. They understood that Lord Balaram, although a Kshatriya, was now retired from the fighting business. The brahmanas and the sages, who were always for peace and tranquility, were very pleased at this. All of them embraced Balaram with great affection and induced him to perform various kinds of sacrifices in that sacred spot of Naimisharanya. Actually, Lord Balaram had no business performing the sacrifices recommended for ordinary human beings. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he himself is the enjoyer of all such sacrifices. As such, his exemplary action of performing sacrifices was only to give a lesson to the common man, to show how one should abide by the injunctions of the Vedas. So that's the point I was bringing up earlier. We have this in the Krishna book over and over again, where both Krishna and Balaram are doing these sacrifices that are completely unnecessary for them, but normally set for ordinary people. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Balaram, instructed the sages and saintly persons at Naimisharanya on the subject matter of the living entity's relationship with this cosmic manifestation, and how one should accept this whole universe, and on how one should relate with the cosmos in order to achieve the highest goal of perfection. The understanding that the whole cosmic manifestation is resting on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is all-pervading, even within the minutest atom, by the function of its Paramatma feature. Lord Balaram then took the Avabrita bath, which is accepted after finishing sacrificial performances. After taking his bath and dressing himself in new silken garments, and decorated himself with beautiful jewelry amidst his relatives and friends, he appeared to be a shining full moon amidst the luminaries in the sky. Lord Balaram is the personality of Godhead, Ananta himself. Therefore, he is beyond the scope of understanding by mind, intelligence, or body. He descended exactly like a human being and behaved in that way for his own purpose. We can only explain his activities as the Lord's pastimes. No one can even estimate the extent of the unlimited demonstrations of his pastimes, because he is all-powerful. Lord Balaram is the original Vishnu. Therefore, anyone remembering these pastimes of Lord Balaram in the morning and evening will certainly become a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus his life will become successful in all respects. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 3rd volume, 10th chapter of Krishna, the liberation of Balvala and Lord Balaram's touring the sacred places. And we will come on to meeting of Lord Krishna with Sudama Brahman in the next story. Thank you very much. Let's chant a little bit and call it a day. And that's all for today. We'll tune in for another story, another day. Thank you very much. Namaste.